My parents refused to watch my baby girls while I was in critical surgery, saying I was an inconvenience and a problem because they had tickets for the Adele concert with my sister. From my hospital bed, I hired a sitter, cut all contact, and stopped all financial help. 3 weeks later, I heard a knock. Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where loyalty dies, lies bleed out, and the truth hits like a slap to the face. These aren't just stories, they're confessions soaked in betrayal and regret. Ever spotted a red flag when it was already too late? Say it in the comments. Let's tear into today's tale. We can't skip the concert. It would crush your sister's entire year. My mother's voice crackled through the phone, carrying the same detached tone she'd used my whole life. I clutched the hospital bed rail, my pre-surgery nerves tangling with a deeper, more crushing feeling, utter abandonment. Mom, I'm facing emergency surgery to remove a tumor. I just need you to look after the twins for a few hours, I said, struggling to keep my voice calm. My twin daughters, Lily and Emma, were only 9 months old, and the idea of leaving them with strangers during my anesthesia filled me with dread. You're always making things difficult. So dramatic. My father's voice chimed in from the background. Can't you find someone else? We've had these tickets for ages. I'm Ava Bennett, 35, and I've spent most of my adult years as the family's financial anchor. As a senior marketing director at Crestview Solutions in Seattle, Washington, I've juggled being a single mom to twin girls while never missing a beat in supporting my parents' $600 monthly, plus groceries when they're short, and even the deposit for my sister's new car 2 years ago. I thought that kind of commitment meant something, that it earned me their support when I desperately needed it. The concert's tomorrow night, my mother went on. Your sister would be heartbroken if we missed it. Surely your surgery can wait a day or two. The surgeon had been blunt. The tumor needed immediate removal, and every day's delay raised the risk of serious complications. Yet here I was in a hospital gown pleading with the people who were supposed to care about me without question. Mom, this isn't something I can postpone. It's cancer. They need to operate now, I whispered, tears pricking my eyes. Well, I don't know what you expect, she snapped. Maybe you should have thought twice about having kids without a partner. We have responsibilities too, you know. The line fell silent save for my father grumbling about how I always cause trouble at the worst moments. I stared at the ceiling, counting the specks in the tiles to hold myself together. My sister Nora never had to ask them for anything. I'd been covering her costs for years. The car I helped buy, the credit card debt I quietly cleared, the rent I covered when she was between gigs. A cold realization hit me. This wasn't shock or betrayal. Deep down, I'd always known my place in their priorities. The tumor didn't just show up on my scans. It exposed something toxic that had been festering in our family for years. Growing up, I was the dependable one, while Nora chased friends and romances in her teens. I worked part-time jobs and saved for college. My parents celebrated her carefree spirit and fretted that I was too serious. When she dropped out of college in her junior year to explore her passions, they backed her choice. When I graduated, magna cum laude, and landed my first marketing role, they barely noticed. The pattern held into adulthood. When my parents nearly lost their home 4 years ago, I drained my savings to save it. When Nora needed a car for her latest job, I paid the deposit. Without a second thought, every birthday, every holiday, every family crisis, I was the one they turned to, not to see how I was, but to ask what I could give. Even when I chose to become a single mother through IVF, carrying Lily and Emma, my parents' first question wasn't about my well-being. They wanted to know if I could still help them financially, with babies to raise. I promised I would, and I did. Even through the grueling early months of raising twins alone, Ava always manages, my mother would tell people, as if my stability came without effort, not from years of sacrifice and hard work. She's got that great job and everything under control. They never saw the nights I stayed up past a.m. working after Lily and Emma finally drifted off, ensuring I could pay my bills and still send money their way. They didn't notice me skipping proper meals, surviving on toast and Cofito stretch my budget for their grocery deliveries. They didn't know I delayed my own doctor's visits because every dollar was accounted for. I told myself it was worth it. Family was everything. Blood meant loyalty. And if I ever truly needed them, they'd step up just as I had for them. The surgeon's knock snapped me out of my thoughts. Miss Bennett, we're ready to take you to the operating room. Is your childcare sorted? I nodded, having spent the last frantic hour securing an emergency nanny service. It cost more than I could comfortably spare, but I had no other option. Yes, it's all set, I said. Good. Your neighbor seems dependable, he said, glancing at his clipboard. Mrs. Larson, correct? She's been asking after you. I almost corrected him, then let it go. My elderly neighbor, Mrs. Larson, had shown more care in a single horse than my parents had in years. Maybe that was the real truth about who my family was. By evening, the anesthesia had faded, leaving me groggy, but aware of a deep ache in my heart that had nothing to do with the surgery. The tumor was out, benign. Thank goodness. But the wound my parents had left felt raw and festering. I stared at my phone for an hour before checking my messages. Nothing from my parents, not even a quick text to see if I'd made it through. But Nora had sent 4 messages, each buzzing with excitement about the concert. Photos of her outfit, a video of her and my parents laughing as they got ready, and a clip of their prime seats. In the background of the last video, I heard my mother's voice. Ava will be fine. She always is. The nurse came in to check my vitals and saw my tears. Are you in pain? I can adjust your meds, she offered. No, I said, brushing my cheeks. It's not that kind of hurt. When I was discharged the next morning, I called the nanny to arrange picking up Lily and Emma. Mrs. Larson, it turned out, had checked on them every few hours, and the nanny said the girls were happy and calm. I paid the $350 bill for overnight care without flinching. It was a small price for knowing my daughters were safe and cared for when I couldn't be there. Driving home with Lily and Emma cooing in their car seats, something shifted inside me. The painkillers softened the edges of reality, but my resolve was sharp. I was done. Done being the family's ATM. Done being overlooked. Done pretending their love wasn't conditional. At home, I opened my laptop and stopped the automatic $600 monthly transfer I'd set up years ago. That money would now go to Lily and Emma's future, where it belonged. I removed my parents from my grocery delivery account and canceled the emergency credit card I'd given them. Then, with a deep breath, I blocked their numbers. It felt like stepping into the unknown, both terrifying and freeing, like leaping into the wind and trusting I could fly. As I tucked the twins into their cribs for their nap, Emma's tiny fingers brushed my cheek, and Lily flashed her heart-melting toothless grin. These 2 little souls were my world now. Not parents who couldn't bother to check on me post-surgery. Not a sister who took my support for granted. I'd spent years believing love meant endless giving, constant availability, relentless sacrifice. But watching my daughters sleep, I saw the truth. I'd been teaching them the wrong kind of love. Real love was mutual. Real love showed up when it counted. My phone vibrated with a text from an unfamiliar number, likely my parents using Nora's phone. I set it face down and went to cook myself a real meal for the first time in weeks, hurting me, but that they might offer an apology if it reopened the cash flow. This isn't about apologies, I said, stepping back. This is about finally seeing you all for who you are. Nora's face crumpled, her eyes welling up. We're your family, Ava. We love you. You know that, right? Nora's voice wavered, pleading. No, I said softly. You love what I give you. There's a difference. I could see her mind racing, searching for words to sway me, but instead of grappling with the truth, she turned sharp. You're being selfish, she snapped, her tone rising. You earn good money. You don't have a partner to support, and you've always managed to take care of everyone. Why are you rewriting the rules now? Her words stung the casual cruelty of implying my struggles as a single mother were less real, that my success obligated me to them. It clarified everything. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it was who they were, who they'd always been. I'm rewriting the rules because I've been playing a game stacked against me, I said, and I'm done losing. I shut the door and locked it, ignoring Nora's persistent knocking and pleas. Emma whimpered, unsettled by the noise, and I focused on soothing her while Lily cooed happily in my arms. After about 15 minutes, the banging stopped, and I heard Nora's car engine roar to life in the parking lot. A strange emptiness settled over me, as if I'd just cut out something toxic that had been poisoning me for years. My phone rang almost instantly, a number I didn't know. I let it go to voicemail and played it back while preparing the twins' dinner. Ava, this is your mother, came her voice, clipped and unusually formal. Nora told us about your talk. We need to address this like adults. Call me back. No mention of my surgery. And no hint of concern, just annoyance that I wasn't complying. I deleted the message and blocked the number. Over the next few days, they tried everything. Calls from new numbers, emails to my work account, even a stiff handwritten note from my father that felt like it was drafted by a lawyer. None of it addressed the real issue. They still saw me as a resource to manage, not a person to cherish. The most revealing attempt was when Nora appeared at my office during lunch. Security called to ask if I'd meet her in the lobby. Through the window, I saw her pacing, phone in hand, looking worn out, likely bearing the brunt of our parents' demands for the first time. I told security I wasn't available and watched from my office as she finally left. It should have felt triumphant, but it just left me heavy, grieving the family I thought we were, mourning the years I'd spent chasing love that was never truly there, and aching for Lily and Emma, who'd grow up without grandparents to proud to choose connection. But beneath the sorrow was something solid, relief. For the first time in years, I was making choices for me and my girls alone. The financial strain was still there, but it was honest strain. The normal challenge of supporting my own household, not 3-on-1 salary. 3 weeks after Nora's office visit, I was settling into this new life. The twins were flourishing, my recovery was on track, and I'd started saving again. Without the constant drain of my parents' needs, I could afford small luxuries like organic baby food and a reliable daycare that didn't leave me panicking when the girls caught a cold. I was giving Lily and Emma their evening bath when a car door slammed in the parking lot, followed by heavy footsteps climbing the stairs to my second-floor apartment. The knock was different, not Nora's frantic pounding, but a measured, deliberate rap that carried an air of authority. I dried my hands and checked the peephole. My father stood in the hallway, dressed in his best coat, clutching a scarf like a prop from a classic film. Behind him, half hidden in the dim light, was my mother, her posture slumped, maybe with shame or just exhaustion. I watched them for a long moment. My father shifted his weight, glancing at his watch. My mother murmured something, and he shook his head sharply. They looked like nervous job applicants, unsure if they wanted the position. Part of me wanted to open the door, curious to hear their pitch, but a stronger part remembered lying in that hospital bed, terrified and alone while they danced at a concert. I recalled my mother's flippant dismissal of my cancer scare, the automatic assumption that my needs were secondary to their whims. Lily and Emma splashed in their bath, oblivious to the scene outside. I looked at their joyful faces and made a choice that felt both simple and final. I stepped away from the door. The knocking grew louder, more insistent. Then my father's voice came through, muffled but clear. "Ava, we know you're in there, Ava. We can hear the girls." My father's voice carried through the door. "We just want to talk." Then my mother's voice, higher and taut. "Please, sweetheart, we're your parents. We love you." I nearly laughed at the timing of their words. Where was that love when I faced emergency surgery? Where was it? Through all the years I'd sacrificed my own stability to prop up theirs? Love shouldn't need a grand declaration in a crisis. It should show up quietly, consistently, in actions. They lingered for nearly an hour, knocking intermittently, calling out. At one point, my father's tone sharpened, edged with the anger I remembered from childhood. "This is absurd, Ava. You can't cut off your family just because you're upset. We raised you better than this." But they hadn't raised me better. They'd raised me to be useful. To prioritize their needs over my own. To always be available. The woman who set boundaries, who valued herself enough to demand mutual love, that woman I'd built on my own. Finally, the hallway went quiet. I heard their footsteps fade. Then, car doors slammed and an engine rumbled away. When I was sure they'd left, I checked the peephole. On the doormat was an envelope, my name written in my father's precise handwriting. I stared at it for a long moment, tempted to leave it there. Another empty apology, a list of their money troubles, a guilt trip dressed up as a letter. I didn't need to read it to know. The envelope sat on the mat for days. Mrs. Larson, my kind neighbor, knocked to ask if I wanted her to bring it inside. I thanked her but left it untouched, a quiet test of my resolve. Each time I stepped over it, I felt a little more grounded. On Thursday morning, as I headed to work with Lily and Emma, I picked it up, not to read it, but because I was done seeing my father's handwriting. Every time I came home, I tossed it into the dumpster on my way to the car. At the office, my coworker Paige noticed a change. "You seem different," she said during our team meeting. "Like, actually calm. What's the trick?" I nearly mentioned cutting ties with my family, but the wound was still too fresh to share, especially with someone who might urge me to mend things. Instead, I smiled and said, "Just getting better sleep." And I was. For the first time in years, I wasn't lying awake fretting over whether my parents could cover their rent or if Nora needed cash for a new phone. My stress dreams had shifted to ordinary working mom worries, daycare bugs, project timelines, the twins' nap schedules. That afternoon, my phone rang, a local number I didn't recognize. My instinct was to ignore it, assuming another family ploy, but something nudged me to pick up. Miss Bennett, this is Monica from Pacific Trust Bank, the voice said. I'm calling about an account ending in 3921. There's been unusual activity and we need to verify. I don't have an account with that number, I interrupted. The account is under Robert and Ellen Bennett, but you're listed as an authorized user and emergency contact. My parents' account, the one I thought I'd removed myself from years ago. I need my name taken off that account immediately, I said. I'm no longer connected to those account holders in any way. Of course, Miss Bennett, I can process that now, Monica said. But I should note, the account is heavily overdrawn with multiple failed payment attempts this week. As the emergency contact, you'd typically be notified. I don't want to be notified about their finances, I said firmly. Remove all my information and don't contact me again about their account. After I hung up, I leaned back in my office chair, feeling strangely distant from the news. A few months ago, learning my parents were in financial trouble would have thrown me into overdrive, calculating what I could send, which of my own bills I could push back, how to fix their mess before it spiraled. Now, I felt only a faint curiosity about how quickly they'd burn through their funds without my monthly support. 4 weeks. It seemed that said ever think about how they'd handled their finances all these years. My phone vibrated with a text from an unfamiliar number. Ava, it's Nora. Mom and Dad's power got cut off. They're crashing with me, but my landlord says they can't stay long. Can we talk? I deleted it without a reply. Then, I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened my banking app and checked my balance. For the first time since Lily and Emma were born, I saw a growing emergency fund, money that belonged to me, set aside for my daughter's future, not my parents' reckless choices. I smiled and slipped my phone into my pocket. The cycle was broken, and it felt like liberation. Reflecting, I realized the truest act of self-love is stepping away from those who only value what you provide. I'd learned that lesson deeply and not shield Lily and Emma from repeating my mistakes.